Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on CBS News 24/7. I'm Lindsay Reiser. The body of former President Jimmy Carter is headed to Washington right now for a series of ceremonies ahead of Thursday's state funeral. His casket is scheduled to arrive at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland a few minutes from now on a flight dubbed Special Air Mission 39, since, of course, he was the 39th president. We will have that ceremony live in a CBS News special report when it happens. Carter's casket was loaded onto a plane at Dobbins Air Force Base in Marietta, Georgia, shortly after noon Eastern Time. More than 23,000 people visited the Carter Presidential Center in Atlanta during public visitation there to pay their respects between Saturday night and this morning. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now from Washington. Ed, what will happen once President Carter's casket arrives at Joint Base Andrews?
Lindsay, good afternoon to you. We are awaiting the former president's remains to be seen here in the streets of Washington. He's set to land in Washington in just a few minutes and will make his way from Joint Base Andrews here to downtown Washington. We're along Pennsylvania Avenue, across the street from what's called the Navy Memorial, which was established by then President Carter back in 1980. This is a location that honors the service that he served, the U.S. Navy. And as part of the procession to the Capitol, he will be transferred at this spot from the hearse that he's in onto a what they call a caisson, or the horse-drawn carriage, military carriage, that will be followed by a riderless horse with his boots in reverse. This is a military tribute that's given to commanders-in-chief, other senior officers, Medal of Honor winners, prisoners of war. And the casket will be followed then from, at this point in Pennsylvania Avenue, up to the Capitol for about another 20 minutes as the Carter family will walk behind the casket to the east back to the Capitol. This, in essence, Lindsay, reverses a very famous parade route that then newly inaugurated President Carter took back in 1977 when he got out of his limousine right here at this spot and walked the rest of the route down to the White House off to the west. Most Americans nowadays think that's sort of customary. You see that on the front page of the paper, on a website just minutes later on Inauguration Day. But it was Carter who did it first, and it was part of sort of his push to better humanize and reduce the pageantry or the remove of a president from the public in the wake of the Watergate scandal. So this begins a series of tributes here in Washington. Once the remains arrive at the Capitol this afternoon, it will be greeted by Vice President Harris and congressional leadership. And then through the evening, the public will be allowed to come pay respects as he lies in state in the Capitol Rotunda. That will continue through tomorrow until Thursday morning, when there will be a state funeral for the 39th president up at the National Cathedral. But it is a very cold, snowy day, day 2 of snow here in the National Capital Region. And so how many people decide to show up to see this in person remains to be seen. There's a few dozen off our shoulder here. But otherwise, the weather may have deterred others from showing. The other issue is there is so much more security than originally planned for this, in part because of what happened just last week in New Orleans and Las Vegas, plus the impending inauguration. This city's already making big preparations for that. And in some ways, this is a dress rehearsal for the bigger pageantry to come in a few weeks, Lindsay.
Ed O'Keefe and his crew fearlessly braving those frigid temperatures. Thank you so much for all you do. We will follow along as former President Jimmy Carter's remains arrive in our nation's capital and bring you a CBS News special report live when that plane touches down.